As of November 1st, 2022, a pay transparency law has been put into effect in New York City. And we're going to break down in this video what that means if you're applying or living in New York, or if you are part of just the rest of the other country and you're wondering what this pay transparency talk is all about. And you may be noticing that on job postings right now, they are posting and showing you base salary ranges for all of these positions. So as a recruiter, I'm going to break down this law and explain to you what you need to know and what you need to be thinking about if you are applying, and even if you're working at a company, how you can possibly leverage this to make more money and get a better annual pay increase. And if you want more career tips just like this, make sure you click subscribe down below because I post weekly videos to help you advance your career. So there is a new pay transparency law that was put into effect recently in New York that has been all over the news. So basically what it means is that if you are posting a job to hire somebody in New York City, the entire state, your job posting must show the base salary range for the position. Now, right now it's only in New York and I believe Colorado, but other states are actually pushing the same bill to get approved in their states as well. So don't be surprised if other states are requiring that employers do this as well. California, Nevada, Connecticut, and Maryland are currently the other states that are right now trying to get this same bill passed for their states. But right now, all these states are required to do is share the verbal base salary range for a position when requested verbally. They do not need to post this anywhere in their online job postings. So if you're watching this video and you are applying or living in New York, you're probably thinking, this is fantastic. I'm going to know exactly what the base salary range is. I know exactly how I need to negotiate, and I'll know exactly what I'm going to be paid even before I apply for a job. So I can tell if a posting is worth my time or not. Well, unfortunately, it's really not that simple, and this problem actually goes a lot deeper than you may think. So listen up. So first, you need to understand that the pay transparency law does not require a base salary range to be within a certain limit or to be narrow. So you may notice that a lot of these job postings will have huge variances in the base salary range that they are posting. And you need to remember, from an HR perspective, companies are actually allowed legally to pay employees who have the exact same job title different amounts of money, purely based on experience, qualifications, education, and general performance and tenure at a company. So these base salary ranges don't only take into account what a new hire would be getting paid, but it would also factor in and sometimes show what current employees with that same job title are being paid at the company. But remember, they've probably been there for a while, and if they've got consistently high performance reviews, obviously they're going to be rewarded so they don't leave the company. They don't want their top performers to leave. So that's many reasons as to why a base salary range could be so large, which means it's not really helpful for you because you don't know where in that range you would actually fall. Second, if the company only has one job posting for a position, but they're hiring in multiple different states, one of them is New York or Colorado, they're going to need to show the base salary range from lowest to potential highest for all of the states that are being covered in that job posting. So basically what you need to know is New York has one of the highest cost of labors in the entire country, right with Silicon Valley. So New York and people in Silicon Valley or the Bay Area, Northern California, are basically going to be paid the same. So they're going to be or have the highest potential base salaries within that range. But if the job is posted to hire someone in New York, or let's say Nevada, which has a significantly lower cost of labor, the base salary range that they are required to show on the job posting will span the Nevada range all the way up to the New York range, or whatever the highest is. So you need to keep that in mind as well, and that's why there can be huge variances sometimes in the job postings, because if they're hiring in multiple states, which a lot of these large corporations will be doing, or if they're hiring fully remote, which means you don't even have to be in New York. That's why these base salary ranges can be so huge. And you need to keep that in mind if you don't live in New York, because you probably won't be getting the higher end of the range. And if you do live in New York, don't be thinking, oh, this base salary range at the bottom is nowhere near to what I want, so I'm not gonna apply. Keep all of these things in mind when you're looking at the job posting. Next, we also should talk about the levels. So a job posting or a company may be hiring somebody for multiple levels within that same job position. So for example, if they have a posting for a general software engineer, full stack, you don't actually know what level of software engineer that company may be hiring for. Not all companies use staff and senior staff job titles. Companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft are purposely flat as an organization when it comes to job titles. So the only difference in the level would be internally known. This would not be posted on the job posting itself. So basically, if a company is hiring one job title but at different levels, there could be a huge variance in the range. So not only could there be variance due to the location, but also variance due to the potential levels that you could be hired at. And your level will most likely not be determined until you have finished all of your interviews. So what I highly recommend is after you're done with your interviews and they're talking about giving you an offer, you should ask and confirm what level this is within the company and have them explain how their leveling system works. Then, now that you know your official level at the end of the interviews, you should then ask them to give you the base salary range for that level specifically. Because that way you can kind of narrow it down from the larger range to exactly what you could potentially get in your specific market. Now, the next thing, and some of you may have caught this earlier in the video, the law only requires that the base salary range be shared on the job posting. And as you all know, base salary range is not the only way that you can be compensated and paid by the company. The law does not require them to talk about your bonus, your annual bonus, your sign-on bonus, or even the equity that you would be getting as a part of your overall package. It only requires base salary. So do keep that in mind, especially if you're applying for tech companies, which are known to give a lot of stock, or if you're planning on working in the financial services industry, particularly investment banking, because investment banking has huge annual bonuses, and the base salary is really only sometimes up to 50% of your total pay for the year. So depending on the industry, you're going to want to keep that in mind, and don't let the base salary numbers discourage you from applying, because you need to think about total compensation, which is not required by any law to be shared by employers. Next, you need to also keep in mind that this pay transparency law only requires employers to post base salary range in good faith. And this is what's creating a lot of this controversy and stir up in the HR community with HR professionals, because in good faith is really up to the company's discretion. And also, the pay transparency law does not legally require that a company or employer pay you a base salary within that range, which obviously doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, why would you have them post a base salary range that's not even legally enforceable? And as a recruiter, I honestly don't see a world where there's going to be an employer that doesn't pay you somewhere within that range. And I should caveat this by letting you know that you most likely will probably not be getting the highest number in that range unless you totally crush your interviews, or you're an exceptional candidate, or you're like an industry leader or something like that. So just level set your expectations there, and just keep in mind that legally they're not required to pay you something within that range, which right now doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that's why these bills are trying to get appended. Okay, so what am I supposed to do with all this information? Basically, like, so what? Why should I even care about this Pay Transparency Act? How does that affect me right now? Well, as a recruiter, I can tell you that I think this is a really good step in the positive direction, where there should be a lot more transparency in terms of what you could be potentially paid for a job. Remember, just getting any information is better than how it used to be in the past, where you get no information when it comes to advocating for yourself and negotiating a better job offer, especially for those who are in underserved or underrepresented and diverse communities, who are historically marginalized and have been paid less. So I do think this is a step in the right direction, but as you can see from what I've covered in the video so far, there's a lot of caveats and a lot of certain situations where this doesn't really help, and there's a lot of gotchas. But I do think this is something that is going to be very helpful. And also, don't think that this is totally useless, but keep in mind, again, this is not total compensation ranges. So again, if you're applying for tech or investment banking, this is not going to be very helpful. And a lot of tech companies like Amazon and Google are very heavy on the equity, and they're known for having less base salary. So also keep those certain nuances in mind where you may be getting a lot. And also, I know in general, if you don't work in tech, most employees do not get any equity as a part of their annual pay compensation package until at least the director level. So just knowing what the base salary range is actually going to be very helpful for quite a few people. And one really important thing that I want to make sure that all of you are aware of as well is if you are currently working at a company today and you know that your company is hiring in New York or Colorado where this law is requiring them to share the range, I think you should start to look at your company's job postings and see what that potential range is for someone in your same position, especially before your annual performance review and before you get your annual pay increases. Knowing what the potential you could be making is going to be very beneficial when you're trying to negotiate a pay raise based on your performance. So don't just think this is only applicable for those who are applying for jobs. If you are at the company, you can use this information to help yourself get a leg up and make a little bit more money. All right, so I hope you found this video to be helpful as I broke down the new pay transparency law. If you have any questions about it, throw it down in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer as many as I can. And if you are applying for jobs and you want to make sure that you are acing all these interviews when you are trying to get a nice base salary increase, make sure you click this video right over here. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.